welcome back everyone to a downward spiral Cobra Kai Season 5 Watch Party. This is part 2 of the series on the problems with Season 5, where we take a look and try to see why some people felt let down and lost interest after it came out. Previously, we looked at Episode 3, Playing with Fire. Now we're moving on to Episode 4. It's worth noting upfront this is probably the least liked episode of the season. It has the lowest rating on IMDb, and it has a lack of interest among fans. What happened? Episode 4 took a beating on two fronts. What was originally a bridge episode to the mid-season finale and was probably already weak was made worse by the trailer, which set a very different impression on what was to come, and I do think that was a big part of it. Before the season came out, my video on the water park rumble was a hit. Everyone was looking forward to some huge summer fight at the water park. If you look at some of the comments from that video, you can see the anticipation for this episode specifically was higher than anything else. Even though the trailer didn't show it, I think fans imagined a huge brawl. That makes sense because we did get hints of a brawl about to start. Then if they're fighting in a water park, imagine what they could do. People fighting down the slides, jumping in and over pools, inner tube tactics, everything that was hinted at in the trailer. Because surely the trailer was holding back the good stuff, right? They never put the best stuff in the trailer, they just hint at it. I suppose that's reasonable, but ultimately it led to a lot of disappointment. Fans were expecting the world, and instead we got, well, this. It didn't quite live up to expectations. Let's look at it all a little deeper. Now, the best part of the episode is the beginning dream sequence, obviously a mirror to Johnny's dream in Season 2. It has a lot of hysterical moments and great iconic images. A little fun fact, Vanessa Rubio said Tanner Buchanan was on set and supposed to be in these scenes as part of the family. However, at the last moment, they decided Carmen's dream at this point wouldn't have included him, so that's why Robbie isn't here. Be sure to check out our full interview on Cobra Kai Companion, a lot of great insights there. But that definitely sets up Johnny's motivation for this episode. Now let's look at the main storylines. Like the previous episode, this has three basic plot lines. There is Daniel and Amanda at the charity auction while navigating Terry Silver. There's the kids at the water park, which is subdivided into a bunch of smaller stories of Miguel and Robbie, Miguel and Sam, Robbie and Tori, Kenny and Anthony and Hawk, and the others. Finally, you have Johnny trying to get his act together for the baby. We'll start with Johnny because we already touched on it some. Like I said, the intro dream sequence is the best part of the episode and really sets up his story. Carmen has these big dreams, and as a man, Johnny feels obligated to make those dreams a reality. Shannon kicks it off by suggesting the gig economy. There's nothing wrong with this scene, and it is nice to see Shannon at least once this season. It is odd that her parents have a cabin and are apparently rich. If that's the case, it makes you wonder why Robbie never reached out to them back when he was living by himself. But don't think hard about all that. There's reasons, okay? Dimitri helping Johnny with his phone is another good scene. Finally, his nerdiness or dorkiness pays off for Johnny. They bond a little. Not a lot, but enough to see Johnny is on a new path. It's good to see these two work together in some way, so that's all the good stuff. Then we get to the Uber montage. While this series has a lot of montages for different effects, this is one of the weaker comedic ones. I think the biggest problem with this whole thing is that it's almost a repeat of the montage from the previous episode. Like, yeah, they're different things, but the motivation and drive behind them is the same. Johnny is trying to get things right with the baby on the way. Last episode, he was fixing up the apartment. This episode, he's trying to earn money. With a little editing, you could take both these and splice them together into a single Johnny preparing for the baby montage. I also don't entirely buy that Johnny is so bad at all these gigs. Remember this?
Now take it easy. This car isn't technically yours yet.
Relax, Danielle.
Yeah, Johnny is established as a speed demon, so why is he always late and behind? If anything, he would be driving so fast the riders would freak out. In fact, that does happen. The fact that the montage actually contradicts itself and shows Johnny out of character is a little unbelievable. This isn't exactly a montage you would watch again and again. His scene with Lyle, the pawn shop guy, is good. For a minor character, it's great to see him get rounded out a little. There's poignant meaning to this scene, and it leads Johnny to decide to keep Robbie for the summer. Why Robbie would want to stay with Johnny when his grandparents have an awesome cabin is questionable, but whatever. The story ends almost as a setup for the next episode. Overall, it's a decent story, except that week montage is just a rehash from before. The next storyline is the episode of Daniel and Amanda at the charity auction. Now apparently Amanda is angling to get a seat on the board to this charity. It's really important to her, and that sets up the stakes for this storyline. It's sort of classic storytelling. You have a goal, getting on the board. You have an antagonist, Terry Silver, who tries to stop the goal. What's unique is Silver actually doesn't care about Amanda getting on the board. He just wants to sow discord between Daniel and Amanda. So that is good, and in fact the Terry Silver parts of this story are really good. The problem? Well, the goal itself? We've never heard of this charity before. Obviously, it's something created just for this episode, and that's not bad, it's just not great. Like, the tension and fun is how Terry Silver manipulates them, but no one actually cares about the charity. You weren't on the edge of your seat worried if Amanda would get that spot or not. You hadn't heard of it before, and you never gets mentioned after. More specifically, some of the dialogue and moments aren't exactly on par. I wouldn't call it cringe, but it's fairly weak, especially as comedy.
It's too much. I'm trying too hard. Should I lose a necklace?
Courtney Hangler does what she can. She's nervous, we get it. She's nervous for something that has never been mentioned till now. It's meant to be funny, I think. I mean, it doesn't really make me laugh, but I can see how it's intended as comedy. A final note on this whole charity auction, it really just shows how elitist even the LaRussos are. I mean, this is supposed to be for disadvantaged youth. Okay, that's fine. But they have this like super upscale party to celebrate how caring they are for children with no money. Terry Silver offers Amanda wine from his private collection that is much better than what they have at the open bar. Like, what the fuck? Imagine an open bar, prim and proper waiters serving hors d'oeuvres, a beautiful ambiance. Also, everyone can bid on items to support kids without money. Like, fuck, it really shows the rooted class differences of our society. Keep in mind, events like this are for socializing. Like, if you really wanted to support a charity you cared about, you could just write a freaking check. Boom, done. Tax write-off and all. But no. Having really sophisticated wine while you bid on donated luxury goods really helps you support the kids. Obviously, events like this only serve to stroke the egos of the ultra-rich elites who attend them. So while the Terry Silver stuff is wonderful with Daniel and Amanda, the story suffers because Amanda's desire to get on the board is just an excuse for the story to happen. It's not gripping. Like I said, it's not necessarily bad. A lot of stories do that, but it's not inspired either. Now let's focus on the third storyline and the biggest disappointment, the water park adventure with our teen characters. Now it starts off hot, really hot. It's the sort of fire that makes a paralyzed man feel something in his loins. Hallelujah! But unfortunately, it does go downhill fast. We immediately pick up with this unnecessary relationship drama with Miguel and Sam. If it wasn't good in the last episode, this isn't much better. First off, Sam's reason for the breakup, to have some space to find herself, officially ends here when Miguel sits next to her. The whole thing lasted one scene. I mean, Miguel could have just gone and sat with the Eagle Fangs, but it's a show, whatever. I should say I kind of like their little play back and forth with the books. It's nice that they have something between them, except for the fact that this is all happening under the premise that they're broken up. Would this make more sense if they didn't break up in the previous episode? Probably. I think there's a simple fix to that. Sam's stated reason was that she needed a break from karate, not Miguel. Okay, fine. A better way to do the whole story would have been that as Miguel gets dragged into his beef with Robbie, Sam feels herself being dragged in too. Maybe she sees Tori and seethes with anger. Once she realizes what's happening, she then decides she needs a break. Miguel's constant beef with Robbie drags her into the karate war, and she wants out. That's when she breaks up with him. She needs that space. It's a more concrete reason than what happened in the previous episode. Plus, Robbie and Tori break up too, so there would be more symmetry between them. Otherwise, Tori's refusal to leave Cobra Kai is more interesting when seen in the context of the full season. You have to be a little impressed by Robbie's willingness to break up with her. I mean, would you dump Peyton List? Yeah, I don't think so. Now, the crux of the whole plotline is Kitty is still knocking Anthony around, and that sprawls over to include all the dojos. There's some stare downs with Hawk. Tori tries to play peacemaker. They decide to split the park up, which really just seems stupid. How do you divide a water park? Plus, it costs real money to go to this thing. Like, would you want to spend a day like that? I wouldn't. I agree with Devin. It would just go on whatever slides I want. Of course, that creates the fight, which leads to the slide race. And that's really the letdown. It's not some big karate rumble, it's just a race down the slide. It's not even a fair race as Kenny cheated again. While the parallels for Tori are interesting, it doesn't make the episode itself fun to watch. For a show that builds to the most awesome fight scenes, this is anticlimactic. Also, the consequences of the cheating and the race are immediately negated. Basically, they're thrown out of the park and none of it is mentioned again. Done, forgotten, no more. So in the end, it really wasn't that consequential. That lack of stakes and the fact that nothing had any long-term meaning is what leads to your frustration. So while the episode does have good moments, overall it frustrates and antagonizes. You want more, you want higher stakes. You don't want weird, pointless relationship drama. If the trailer leads you to think there's gonna be a fight, you want that fight. A rigged race down a water slide isn't that exciting. It's interesting in a sort of analytical sort of way, but it's not exciting. That is why so many people feel this is the weakest episode of season 5. However, there are further problems on the horizon with this season in the back half. In part 3, we'll look at the longest karate training session ever. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.